Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki, Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Nitai, Sasi Srisati, Shri Jagannath Baladev, Shabhadra ki, Shri Radha Parasiswara ki, Gaura Premanandi, Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, all glories to the Shambhala Devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Grand Gopal. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Bhutale Namaste Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pichari Nayana Visesha Sanivadi Astichari Shatari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Which verse are we reading?
So Srimad Bhagavatam 8:19-41. So
41.
41. 40. Starting with Parag.
yes.
Parag. No question. Paragvitam purnang va
Paragvitam purnam va
aksharam yattadong iti
Aksharam yattadom iti
yatkinchidong iti bruyat
Yatkinchidom iti bruyat
tena vicheta vaipuman
Tena vicheta vaipuman
Vikshave sarvam om kurvan
Vikshave sarvam kurvan
Nalam kamena chatmane
Naram kramena shatmane
Paragvitam purnam va
Paragvitam purnam va
Aksharam yattad om iti
Aksharam yattadom iti
Yatkinchit om iti bruyat
Yatkinchidom iti bruyat
Tena viceta vai puman.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvam.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvam.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Paragritam apurnam va.
Paragritam apurnam va.
Aksharam yattat om iti.
Aksharam yattat om iti.
Yatkinchidom iti bruyat.
Yatkinchidom iti bruyat.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvam.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvam.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Paragritam purnam va.
Paragritam apurnam va.
Aksharam yattat om iti.
Aksharam yattat om iti.
Yatkinchit om iti bruyat.
Yatkinchidom om iti bruyat.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvan.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvan.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Paragritam apurnam va.
Paragritam apurnam va.
Aksharam yattat om iti.
Aksharam yattat om iti.
Yatkinchid om iti bruyat.
Yatkinchid om iti bruyat.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvam.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvan.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Paragritam apurnam va.
Paragritam apurnam va.
Aksharam yattadom iti.
Aksharam yattadom iti.
Yatkinchidom iti buryat.
Yatkinchidom iti bruyat.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Tena viceta vai puman.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvan.
Vikshave sarvam om kurvan.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Nalam kamena chatmane.
Enough. Correct.
Right.
That which separates.
That is
Separates.
Viktam. That which makes one free from attachment.
That which makes one free from attachment.
Apurnam.
Apurnam.
That which is insufficient.
That which is insufficient.
Va. Either.
Either.
Aksharam.
Aksharam.
This syllable.
Syllable.
Yat.
Yat.
That. Tat.
Tat.
Which.
Which.
Om.
Om.
Omkara.
Omkara.
Iti.
Iti.
Thus stated.
Plus stated.
Yat.
Yat.
Which.
Which.
Kinchit.
Kinchit.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Om.
Om.
The word Om.
This word Om.
Iti.
Iti.
Thus.
Thus.
It is thus stated.
Plus stated.
Yat.
Yat.
Which.
Which.
Kinchit.
Kinchit.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Om.
Om.
This word Om.
This word Om.
Iti.
Iti.
Thus.
Thus.
Ruyat.
Bruyat.
If you say.
If you say
Tena.
Tena
By such an utterance.
by such an utterance,
Vitiata.
Viceta,
One becomes free.
one becomes free.
Vai.
Vai.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Uman.
Human.
A person.
A person.
Vikshave.
Vikshave.
Unto a beggar.
Unto a beggar.
Sarvam.
Sarvam.
Everything.
Everything.
Om Kuruvam.
Om Kurvan.
Giving charity
Give charity.
by uttering the word Om.
By uttering the word Om.
No.
Now.
Not.
Not.
Alam.
Alam.
Sufficiently.
Sufficiently.
Kamena.
Kamina.
For sense
For
gratification.
sense gratification.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
Also.
Atmane.
Atman.
For self-realization.
Self-realization.
Translation and purport, I should have both. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 19, Text 41. the title of the chapter is The Lord Begs Charity from Bali Maharaj. And this speaking here is Shukacharya, who's, well, the Lord is testing Bali Maharaj, quite a big test. The Shukacharya is appearing like he's trying to change the decision of Bali Maharaj to give charity to Vamana by various arguments based upon material considerations. The utterance of the word Om signifies separation from one's monetary asset. In other words, by uttering this word, one becomes free from attachment to money because his money is taken away from him. Jai. Pada Paraseshwara ki jai.
Jai.
Grandfather Savada ki jai. Satyasuta ki jai. To be without money is not very satisfactory. So in that position, one cannot fulfill one's desires. In other words, by using the word Om, one becomes poverty-stricken. Especially when one gives charity to a poor man or beggar. One remains unfulfilled in self-realization and in sense gratification. And there is a purport where Srila Prabhupada says, writes, Maharaj Bali wanted to give everything to Vamanadev, who had appeared as a beggar. But Shukacharya, being Maharaj Bali's familial spiritual master in the line of seminal succession, could not appreciate Maharaj Bali's promise. Shukacharya gave Vedic evidence that one should not give everything to a poor man. Rather, when a poor man comes for charity, one should untruthfully say, whatever I have given you, I have no more. Heard that one before. It is not that one should give everything to him. Actually, the word Om is meant for Om Tat Sat, the absolute truth. Omkara is meant for freedom from all attachment to money, because money should be spent for the purpose of the Supreme. The tendency of modern civilization is to give money in charity to the poor. Such charity has no spiritual value, because we actually see that although there are so many hospitals and other foundations and institutions for the poor, according to the three modes of material nature, a class of poor men is always destined to continue. Even though there are so many charitable institutions, poverty has not been driven away from human society. Therefore it is recommended here, Bhikshave sarvam om kurvam nalan kamena chatmane. One should not give everything to the beggars among the poor. The best solution is that of the Krishna conscious movement. This movement is always kind to the poor, not only because it feeds them, but also because it gives them enlightenment by teaching them how to become Krishna conscious. We are therefore opening hundreds and thousands of centers for those who are poor, both in money and in knowledge, to enlighten them in Krishna consciousness and reform their character by teaching them how to avoid illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating and gambling. which are the most sinful activities and which cause people to suffer life after life. The best way to use money is to open such a center where all may come, live, and reform their character. They may live very comfortably without denial of any of the body's necessities, but they live under spiritual control, and thus they live happily and save time for advancement in Krishna consciousness. If one has money, it should not be squandered away on nothing. It should be used to push forward the Krishna consciousness movement, so that all of human society will become happy, prosperous, and hopeful of being promoted back home, back to Godhead. The Vedic mantra in this regard reads as follows, and there's no...
There is no after.
Well, it's pretty much the same as today's verse anyway. A little bit different, but pretty much the same. Paragva etad vittam aksharam yadetad omiti tad yad kinchit omiti ahatreva samitar vichite sayat sarvam om kuryad vichyadatmanam swachamevyo narasyat. No translation is given. I don't know if there's... Sometimes there are editors in the Bhagavatam have put the translation in there, but this one doesn't have a translation. So we cannot comment on that Vedic verse, but it's quite akin in many ways to today's verse by the looks of it, at least in the meaning of the verse. Now, jog of memory. When Bali Maharaj made his promise to give 3 steps of land, relative Lord Vamdev asked for 3 steps of land. Bali Maharaj was willing to give those 3 steps of land, although he considered it a rather meager request, since he was more or less, you could say, controlling, at least for the time being. He was like the ruler of the universe, practically speaking. And the 3 steps of land for a small dwarf, like personality who Vamanadev appeared to be, does not sound like an excessive piece of land, to say the least. Story unfolds, and we probably know that story. But when Bali Maharaj originally proposed to Vamana, please ask me, it's the standard when you receive a guest that one offers a guest, or may not ask necessarily, please ask for me whatever you wish. I see you've come here. You must want something. Please ask for me. Generally when a beggar comes up to one, they usually want something. Isn't it?
We experience almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, sometimes they don't ask, they take, or they try to take. But in this case, Bali Maharaj basically is the other way around. Is asking, please, what can you ask for me? Whatever you want. Vamanadev doesn't necessarily even ask for anything. He's asking, ask for me whatever you want. So this is culture. This is a little different, and perhaps from our modern day experience. Sometimes that happens in terms of someone you recognize and accept, perhaps they're working on behalf of some organization which you have some, let's say, affinity towards, or desire to assist. You may ask, please, what do you want? Let me know, I'll help you. The material, as Prabhupada is mentioning here, people are often keen to give for the opening of hospitals or some other welfare institute, welfare activity. In this case, there's, other than being apparently I describe him like a little beggar, he's a Brahmin. For one of Vedic culture, Brahmins was considered in many ways to be exalted members of society. And people in general knew that giving welfare to a Brahmin is for one's own benefit from all angles. It's not just, say, to help somebody, but it helps oneself. By assisting, as Prabhupada mentions here, the Krishna consciousness movement in this purport, but Brahmins, serving Brahmins in general, is necessary principle in human society for the pleasure of the Lord, but also for the benefit of society in general and the individual. By giving to a qualified Brahmana, one gains how many times? I can't remember. Many times, 1,000 times or something, and benefits. Even an unqualified Brahmana, one gains at least something. But here, of course, Brahmana is more than a qualified Brahmana, but a Bali Maharaj was not necessarily conscious of that. Shukracharya was, and for various devious reasons, you could say, he tried to divert the intention of Bali Maharaj away from giving charity with these arguments which you've just read, various arguments or various reasons why not to give charity. They're based on statements which may be there in certain karmakandi, I guess, sections of the Vedas, materialistic sections, which are generally geared to one's own benefit. He has alluded or avoided the point of giving to a Brahmin that you gain so much benefit. Because in one sense, Prabhupada describes that Shukracharya is concerned about his own position, that he will be out of a job, he'll be on the dole queue or social security trying to get some governmental help or something. Not exactly, but that sometimes may be motivations for this. I remember one time, it's kind of a little related, I suppose. I was one devotee in GBC, secretary. Asked if we could help with any pujaris for a temple in Australia. So we sent one brahmachari, selfless brahmachari there who was a Brahmin, to help with the puja, but the temple managers wouldn't let him do it. Because if he did it, then the Brahmins who were doing it presently, were trying to do it presently, would be out of a job. So they're getting paid. So he never did the deity worship there. Shortly after he left. There wasn't sufficient service for it. So sometimes even in our Krishna consciousness, we don't see the higher benefits, the higher purposes. We can partially understand the reasoning of the devotees, you could say, who are dependent. Their ultimate goal is to depend on Krishna, not to depend upon material, say, conditions, material considerations. They may have to be taken into account because of practical reasons. Here, Shukracharya's is wholly taken into account. He's not even considering any value whatsoever in giving charity to this Brahmin boy. Well, of course, he's trying to also add the fact that this boy is a cheat. He's cheating you. He's not really what you think he is. We see this sometimes comes up for higher purposes. Even Jarasandha, they took advantage of, didn't they? He was very, very charitable to Brahmins. He'd gain strength. Well, Bali Maharaj was the same. He was very charitable to Brahmins, and that was one of the reasons that he was able to conquer over the heavens. Prime reason. He gained Brahmatejas, the strength of the Brahmins. They bestowed their blessings on him, whereas Indra had lost his, you could say, blessings in many ways by insulting his guru, the Brahmin guru. So, yes, serving the Brahmins is a very important part of even the demons. In ancient times, many times they would know, they were careful in this regard. Even though they had ill intent, they still recognized the importance of serving Brahma Seva, serving the Brahmins, Brahma Seva. Whereas nowadays people have, in that's one sense, people are, they may relatively think they're somewhat rich, but not really. Maybe some karma is there. They've got a little bit of relative richness, but there's not much richness in society, even materially today. We're living in a not such a pleasant environment. We're exposed to all kinds of, unwanted sufferings, abnormalities in society of weather, health, and so much mental distress, stress, and there are anxieties, fears, and what have you. And any moment, whatever relative wealth you have, they have some economic recess where assets become reduced sometimes to nil overnight. You thought you were a millionaire and then you were nobody. Not a very, really, because it's not real wealth. Real wealth is of a different kind. Gold, land, animals and so on. Not in this artificial form of wealth which we have today. So aside from that, Prabhupada is emphasizing, now a jog of memory, when Bali Maharaj made or agreed and proposed, take whatever you like, at that point of time. Now, had he uttered Om? Had he uttered Om?
No.
Not at that point. So he may have made the promise, but unless the promise is accompanied by Om, don't get word of it. So you lose everything. Well, he's looking at it from a very mundane point of view. A devotee, we have to lose everything in one sense. What we perceive as something, we have to lose it. Even if we are a billionaire, we have to lose it. Eventually, everything is taken away from us. We're very attached. So the whole idea, which again is not being proposed by Shukracharya, but the idea is that we become, which Prabhupada infers in the purport, we don't necessarily become, we don't reject the things of this world, even money. Now some may do, Mayavadis, some other so-called renunciates may totally renounce, so to speak. But a devotee knows that I don't have anything to renounce, because nothing's mine anyway. Everything belongs to Krishna. Renunciation is that, it's to realize or to accept and to apply that nothing is mine. renouncing something which was attached to, without proper understanding to whom it belongs, is another form of attachment. The real renunciation is to give up the very concept, the false concept that anything is ours. The whole process, the whole principle, the whole purpose of human society, maybe not immediately in most cases, but eventually is to come to this point of understanding that everything is meant for the Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna, and should be used in Krishna's service, and not in our own service, or for whatever reason rejected. It's Krishna's energy, not ours. It's Krishna. Lakshmi is the, you could say, represents the goddess of fortune. We're giving up the goddess of fortune, but we give up the idea that the goddess of fortune is meant for my pleasure. With Ravana's fault, he thought that the goddess of fortune should be for his pleasure. And this is basically everyone's fault. That everyone thinks that the goddess of fortune is meant for my pleasure. This is how we're imitating God. The goddess of fortune, all the wealth that exists, everything that exists, in fact, is meant for the pleasure of the Lord. So the imitation of God, in practical terms, even without conscious awareness of His presence at all, as these demons, they may be conscious that there is some kind of personality, God, but they want to get rid of Him. They want to kill Him and take over Him, get the enemy out of the way. But most people are not even conscious of that, but they're behaving in that mood. They think that things are meant for their sense enjoyment. The same principle, because every form of opulence, be it money or property or whatever it is the excuse me, it is you could say, a manifestation, perceivable manifestation of the goddess of fortune. And the goddess of fortune is not meant for us to enjoy. She is meant for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. So this mentality, whatever we are, whether we're in a dog's body or a hog's body or a human body, pervades. This is meant for my enjoyment. That stool is meant for my enjoyment. So it's not that we offer stool to Krishna. But everything is a perverted transformation of the Lord's energy. But everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Ultimately, we have to see how that can be done. That's the proper renunciation. Not giving up things, as Rupa Goswami says, that can be used in Krishna's service. But rather, we learn to offer them to Krishna. It's somewhat preliminary on the path of pure devotion, but it's necessary understanding, otherwise we can't advance it. We're still attached to thinking that something, somewhere is meant for my pleasure, separate from Krishna. We're still, we've still got our foot in the material world. And Prabhupada says here you can live comfortably in some. You can see that in different ways. One is in the beginning stages, neophyte stages. Obviously there's going to be an element of mixture. And from a spiritual point of view, Krishna looks after his devotees anyway, even if you don't ask for it. Naturally he's going to look after his devotees. You have nothing to fear. You have nothing to lose because nothing's ours. You just use whatever appears within your, let's say, in your ability to work with. Just use it for me. I will free you. Surrender everything to me. I will free you from all fear. It's amazing how this concept of ownership is so powerful. This attraction to money or wealth in different forms is such a powerful illusion. This really is the manifestation of our envy of Krishna, though we don't consciously aware of it. People are always trying to accumulate more. They're willing to take all risks to get money. They risk their lives sometimes, isn't it? To get wealth. They risk their lives. Okay, well, they're all risking their life. Everyone's risking their life in one sense. They literally do that to get wealth. They take that, they gamble. It's gambling to get money. And many times it ends up in disasters, most times disastrous results. If not in this lifetime, long term for sure. It's a big risk people are taking. They're an illusion, complete illusion about our self-identity and about the purpose of life and everything else, the ownership and so on. We're an illusion, total illusion. We may still have an element of that illusion which manifests maybe not absolutely clearly in the form of accumulating wealth as a sign of success, but in another sense, of putting oneself in the center. Bali Maharaj had a little tiny tinge of this as well, still had it actually, of wanting to be respected, of seeing ourselves in the center, enjoying another form of Krishna's energy, praise from other living entities, recognition, position, worship, and so on. There's another illusion, which is a little more subtle, you could say, than the gross one. The gross one's a little more definable and easy to ascertain, or easy, maybe even easier to apply, maybe. But that internal one is more rooted, it's more difficult to give up, to surrender. Surrender that to Krishna. Surrendering that to Krishna means money is meant to be used in Krishna's service. Praise is meant to be used in Krishna's service. Worship is meant to be used in Krishna's service. Recognition, recognizing everything in relationship with Krishna. Not that we are ourselves the enjoyer of those words of praise or worship or whatever form it may take. But everything is meant for Krishna. That's the transparent medium. Shukracharya certainly wasn't manifesting that mentality. But a pure devotee does. He doesn't take any praise for himself. Doesn't take any worship for himself. Take anything for himself. Everything. Just transparent media. Transparent media. Bali Maharaj will learn that lesson. He hasn't quite learned it yet. But he's definitely teaching a great example here, which will come up in the following verses. We'll go there. Of a very big dilemma. We're often faced with dilemmas in life. In fact, life itself, in illusory life, conditioned life is a dilemma in and of itself. We all have personality crisis, identity crisis. Everybody. Remember who we are, Rani Budam. Everyone has identity crisis. This is the underlying problem in the world, in the material world. It's false identity. Of thinking we're separate from Krishna. And seeing everything else around us as separate from Krishna. This is our illusion. The chanting of this sound vibration on Hare Krishna, same principle, can help release us from this. Basically, the root of the problem is false identity, is illusion of identity. Can help free us from it. That's why Srila Prabhupada is establishing centers all over the world to try to awaken, enlighten people and their real identity and the real purpose of human life particularly, and the real proprietor of everything. He established the Ishavasyan Society in Purnamida. But Srila Prabhupada, in perhaps one of the first books he published was Ishopanishad. That's a very significant book. One of the first books we ever were distributing was Ishopanishad. And it was, it was a prominent book. We don't hear much about it now. Every day we had class on ISKCON. It was quite important to grasp this subject matter very carefully and apply it in our lives, because it does contain the underlying solutions to all problems. And, awakening us to our real identity. We used to sing it on the street, on Harinam. Put on this Oxford Street singing it. Kirtan. Country by Kirtan, you're following Yamuna's record. And sing it. We sing Samsaradava on the street as well. Samsaradava Nalalita Loka. We sing different things, and sometimes primarily Hare Krishna. Not an excuse for not attending Mangalarti. Yes, to awaken. Charity begins at home, as they say. Giving charity. If we ourselves are not in this consciousness, then whatever charity we give is not going to be so beneficial either. We may be given grudgingly or with pride or with the intention of getting something in return or freedom from our sufferings or something like that. A mundane purpose behind it. We want to be recognized as a charitable person, as a selfless person, a good person, a good devotee. That may still be there. And that pure chanting of the holy name of the Lord, utterance of this sound vibration, its quality is a degree of quality, removal of these false understandings, this false ego, cleansing of the false ego, the quality of our chanting, the quality of our prayer, the quality of our intentions, etc. Attitude, Prabhupada says, is what really matters in this case. Bali Maharaj's attitude is pretty good. I mean, he's willing to give up the normal process of the demons. You try to utilize everything for one's own apparent benefit. He's willing to sacrifice that. It's a material consideration also to fulfill his promise. He was afraid of breaking his promise and becoming a liar. As you may know, in the Bhagavatam, maybe third canto, he describes how there's one thing that Mother Earth cannot tolerate, and that is a liar. One who says something, it doesn't really mean it. Hypocrisy, duplicity. This Mother Earth, what form it takes, but she cannot tolerate it. Many things she tolerates. Not mentioned here, Prabhupada said, trying to educate people in this human life how to give up meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication. To become a little bit culture, a little bit more, say, self-controlled, a little bit more quality. But lying or duplicity is, in other words, trying to manipulate to fulfill one's own intent. Self-intent is this is practically speaking, binding, duplicitous situation, which will keep the living end. Honesty is a rarity, coming down to zero in Kali Yuga, more and more truthfulness, honesty, even on a mundane level, not to speak of the spiritual. This is challenge, to be able to be honest, straightforward. which is highly required if we want to attain the real valuable thing as Gosvami Maharaj, who with mixed intent has approached the Lord, material intent. But eventually he realized all material achievements are like broken pieces of glass. Freedom from that desire for trying to enjoy that which belongs to Krishna, when we're free of that. This body, this mind, this world, this temple, everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Our husband, our wife, our children, everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. We become free from those attachments. Well, give some, but can't I just have something for my pleasure? 1%, 2%, 3%? Maybe the other way around. Can't I just have 5% for me? 4%? Prabhupada was very merciful and very lenient, you could say, but that's not our goal. We don't want to bargain with Krishna or hold anything back. Surrender means don't hold anything back. And Sanatana Goswami was traveling with Isha and his servant. Sanatana Goswami left everything behind, you could say. Well, but Ishan and some another managed to acquire a little bit of that wealth, and he had, what was it, 9 gold coins or something? 8 gold coins. He had 8 or?
He had 8, but he only gave 7.
Okay, it was 8 and 7. 7, 8, 9. 9 doesn't like 7. 7, 8, 9. Funny joke. So he had 8 gold coins and he gave the astrologer 7. The astrologer knew he had 8, and but he kept 1. You see how our attachment is there? Insecurity, fear, insecurity of system. We don't depend on it. A little bit. But I still have to keep my insurance in this. Because we may have to for practical reasons, that's okay. But we don't really depend on it. We depend on Krishna. We may have money, we don't depend on money, we depend on Krishna. We may have family, we don't depend on family, we depend on Krishna. We have to do our duty in relationship to Krishna's properties, Krishna's servants. But ultimately we're here to, in all your activities, be conscious of me, Arjuna. Depend always on me. Do your duty, but depend on me at the same time. To come to this level, the stage which we are trying to cultivate is not necessarily the stage of love. The fruit of that is love. There's not much love at this point of time, but it's a step towards love, of offering everything to Krishna. Bhagavad Gita, Yat Karoshi Dashnasi Yat Karoshi. So Bali Maharaj is a good fortune. He's in the position now where he's got this opportunity to offer whatever he thinks is his to Krishna. He's devotee, so he's not going to miss this opportunity, even though his spiritual master is doing everything he can to stop him doing. We have this experience many times in our lives with friends, family members, sometimes even devotees try to stop us surrendering. Oh, don't join the brahmachari ashram. Don't go on Sankirtan. They don't run various excuses. Oh, don't preach. Various way, preaching in another way, not in the normal way. All sorts of things. Don't surrender. Don't trust. Many temptations or, let's say, challenges are there on the path. We have our own internal ones, the doubts which are in our own hearts due to our past conditioning and so on and so forth are never ending. So, various doubts about various aspects of we term devotional service may be there, and they may challenge our progress in spiritual life. to give that up, surrendering everything, surrender unto me. We want to become free of fear. Arjuna had so many doubts, and he became fearful. Fears, doubts, synonymous. We become free of fear, not just free of things by force or choice, but free of fear. That's not possible unless we take shelter of Krishna. It doesn't come only just by giving things up. It comes by taking shelter of Krishna, which is the essential purpose of even this particular section of Bhagavatam. And it completely depends on what you like with me. This is Srila Prabhupada, following, of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, is establishing this opportunity to become fearless, to become selfless in the material sense of the term, freed of any false identity, but identifying oneself as Krishna's servant. So the chanting of the holy name is the method, the process, the only process of this transformation. The statement of Lord Chaitanya is not that statement. It's the only process for this transformation of seeing ourselves in the center, but seeing Krishna in the center. But the quality of chanting has to be cultivated. In the association of devotees, and by trying to follow the process which is given in this regard. Hare Krishna. Before every activity, we should chant Hare Krishna. And during the activity, we should chant. And at the end of the activity. And if we're not even doing an activity, we should chant.
In between activities.
That would be nice. Of course, we will be inspired to do things to help others to take up the chanting of Hare Krishna and to